Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
The number one host of Screams After Midnight.
Is that accurate? I don't know if it is.
According to my list.
Your top two hosts of Screams After Midnight. You got that just sitting around, have you? Welcome everyone. This is not a regular episode. This is the finale to our top 100 horror movies of all time. We've both got our own list. We've both already done numbers 100 through 41. Both times I said, Tim, do you want to do the 40 in this episode? And he said no. So we have 40 movies each left to do in this third and final part. Who knows how long this will take. But
to be fair, I don't want to do 40 in this episode either.
Yeah, we don't have a choice this time. So who knows how long that'll take. But just remember, the one rule we have is that if one of us says a movie and the other one has it higher on their list, you say hold, and we hold it until the next, the person who has it higher gets to it on their list, and then we'll talk about the movie. We've already had some holds, of course. We've had some unholds where it came back around, but yeah, we'll get into everything. But yeah, without further ado, because this is going to take a while, and I've had a lot of recording today. I recorded a collector's cut today. I did a 2.5 hour video game podcast for Patreon with Connor. So I'm talked out. So it's the perfect night for a 40 entry countdown. But here we are. Tim.
Yes.
What's your number 40, you dirty bastard?
Number 40. That would be the Blair Witch Project.
Wait, wait. Have I had that already? I can't remember. Hold!
Yeah, I'm assuming...
Hold!
Okay, hold.
Yeah. So hold it, hold. Hold it, hold. This happened last time as well. It's because it's been a week since we did the previous part. There's like a little period at the start where we're both not sure. Like, wait,
Yeah.
have we done that already? We've not had a chance to look. But cool. For the record, you had it number 38 last time, so not much of a change.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not much of a change at all. So yeah, that was your number 40, which means my number 40 is what we're on, which is Phantasm 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
You may continue.
Thank you. This is down a bit from 26 last time. I love Phantasm 2. It takes Phantasm and says, let's do a bigger budget, more action movie version of it. And even the main theme gets like a cover to sound like an epic action theme. And I love that. I love Reggie being a bigger part of the movie. I love that it's the characters being proactive and hunting down the tall man across the country because he's going around all these small towns doing his thing. And I love what they chose to do with the second movie, because it very much is the Aliens to Phantasm's Alien, if that makes sense. It's not as good or as creepy, but it's a lot of fun. I find it very, very enjoyable and easy to watch. I know some people have always had a little bit of a vendetta because the Universal were helping fund it, and they insisted on recasting the little brother with a more of a
Jodie?
Yeah,
Oh,
Jodie. No, Jodie's the bigger one, I think.
Brother?
Is it Mike I'm thinking of?
Mike, that sounds right.
Mike, they wanted more of a leading man, and obviously the third movie goes back to the original actor, which is a little awkward. But even with that, it's, I don't know, like, I think it's because we're so used to like kids not being the adult versions of the same character that it doesn't really even faze me. It's actually worse when we go to 3 and I'm like, oh, who's this guy? I'm like, oh, it's actually the real person. But still, I get used to the other guy's face, so there it is.
Yeah.
But it's Phantasm with some money, which is weird. And it's not necessarily for the better, but god damn, am I not fist pumping as that main theme plays and Reggie's making a quadruple barrel shotgun to take on the demons of hell. I mean, they're not really demons, but it'll do. It'll do as a sentence.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with all of that. I mean, this is a super fun movie. Yeah, it definitely goes, a bit more in the action-y route, but it's so much fun that, you don't really care.
No, it's a blast. It's a good time. In fact, I think when I first watched these movies, I actually preferred 2 over 1, and that immediately changed a few years later when I watched them again, and went, no, 1 is the better movie. Not to spoil anything. But 2 is a blast, and I've always had fun watching it, so it's my number 40. Tim, what is your number 39?
That would be Candyman, the original 1992 version.
You may continue. And did you have that last? I don't think you did, Tim. This is a new entry for you.
Oh, interesting. Okay. No, I think there's a lot, to like about this movie. I think it looks great. It has a really good score. It's one of those movies where there's some kind of like real life stuff that, they bring into it. Like, talks a lot about like kind of the housing and, issues and stuff going on there, and kind of like, that was a lot to say about like, race and injustice and all this kind of stuff. And then, you also got like some really cool horror moments and just a great, even though like, technically I feel like Candyman's not like in the movie a bunch, but he is still like a very, iconic, character.
I don't think it happens as much now, but I feel like there was a time when you're talking about Michael, Freddy, Jason. So like, I feel like he was definitely in the B tier for a while, where people would say, "Oh, what if Candyman fights so and so?"
Yeah,
I think that's died down now. I don't think people actually bring him up in that context anymore. But for a while, I think they did.
I think unfortunately, like, I mean, I don't know if everyone feels this way, but I do think the sequels like kind of brought his status down a little bit.
Farewell to the Flash. What are you talking about?
I mean, that's a great subtitle, but
it's
unfortunately not that great. And it only really got worse. But I actually didn't mind the, I don't know, reboot, requel, whatever you would call it. Not really good enough to make the list, but I thought there was some, good stuff to it. But it does suck. It would be nice to see, him fully back. But I mean, I think this is still a very, tight, great little horror movie.
Yeah, I like the first Candyman. I've liked it more as I've gotten older. It didn't quite make my list. I think I love what the movie's saying and how it's using horror to talk about its very serious subjects and its social commentary. I think the actual surface level movie isn't as compelling as the subtext, if that makes any sense. But I do enjoy it quite a bit. And Tony Todd's obviously very memorable.
Oh, amazing!
As Candyman. So no complaints there. My number 39, which is no, it's up a little bit from 47, and that is A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night.
Wait, did I have that earlier?
Maybe you did. I don't know.
Okay. Oh yeah, I have that at my 51. Okay.
Oh, it's an unhold.
So that's an unhold. Yeah.
Oh, very nice. Okay, there we go. That's fun. This is definitely a movie that's more style than substance, because there's not actually that much plot, but god damn, it's black and white cinematography. Is this vampire who is just kind of falling for someone, but also stalking the streets for bad people, and it's just some of the sequences of her just stalking people down the streets, or even the weirder stuff like her riding a skateboard or just dancing as she's like getting ready to go out. It's very hypnotic and very different.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, if I had one word to describe the movie, I would say hypnotic. Like, it just the visuals, it just really sucks you in, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. And it's still a good movie, like regardless of that stuff. But that's really what sells it, like what you're watching it.
It's what puts it above. I think without the cinematography, I'd probably still enjoy it, but it wouldn't be on this top 100 for both of us, I don't think, if it wasn't for that gorgeous imagery that the movie just hits you with repeatedly. So yeah, it's beautiful. It's highly recommended. It's a very different tone to a lot of movies. Like, the vampire's not really the villain in this. She's kind of this chaotic neutral or chaotic good element.
Like, I don't know, this anti-hero kind of.
Yeah, I think that probably applies. Yeah, that probably applies in this case.
And then I always like to mention, in case, because not everyone knows, because it's a little obscure, but they did actually, like, several years later, make a comic book based on the movie. And obviously it's black and white as well, and it's a really beautiful looking book. So if, like, if you watch the movie and you love those visuals, my cat's knocking everything over. But yeah, if you want that same type of, like, beautiful black and white imagery, but in comic book form, I recommend seeking that out.
Cool. All right, what is your number 38?
That would be Train to Busan.
I think that's a hold, Tim.
Okay.
I feel like that is a I'm trying to find it. I should probably have read over my list before we started, just so that I could be quick on these draws. Unless I already had that, which is
It might be an unhold. That could be possible.
Oh no, it's a hold. It's a hold. It's a hold.
All right. Spoiler alert, I can, if you want to do a little side bet, I can almost guarantee my next two are going to be holds as well. But
I'm not going to take that bet because I think you know me well enough. So I'm just going to.
Maybe people at home can.
I'm just going to soldier
bet
on
with themselves.
What was that for you though? 38, you said?
38. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just so I write it in my database here because at the end I can tell you some stats and that's going to be fun.
Ooh.
So Train to Busan 38. All right. Well, my number 38 then is what we're on then, I guess, and that is a new entry for me, and it is the Transfiguration.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, it's another vampire movie actually, but it's a very different vampire movie. This is a vampire movie where the main character isn't really a vampire. He just thinks he is, or wants to be, and it's very much about him and why he's done this. Like, it's this very in-depth character drama, effectively, of like what circumstances in his life, his surroundings, the fact that his parents aren't around, it's just him and his big brother, the fact that he feels that society kind of sees him as a monster, so he kind of intentionally becomes like a literal movie monster. But it's very much this awkward kid who's quiet and is confronted with all these awful situations, and there's a bit of an awkward romance, or at least an awkward crush that comes out of it as well, which is very endearing to watch. But it's absolutely a horror movie, but there's scenes where he stalks people and bites them, and it's very different because it isn't like a typical vampire movie. This is definitely one that veers into like really, I wouldn't say artsy necessarily. I mean, it does have some artistic moments, but I would say it's a really unique drama that uses horror as an exploration for like how the kid ticks. And the fact that he's...
that's a good explanation.
Yeah, and how he's doing these things is really... Yeah, we did it because I watched it separate from the show and then said, we need to do this, and then a couple of years later we did it. And I just, like, it kind of blew me away when I watched it. It was such a different take. And I know people are probably saying, what about Martin? Isn't that kind of like this concept? And I guess it kind of is. But Martin didn't click with me in the same way. I don't know if it's just like a generational thing where because this kid's alive... in not that I'm living in like a rough neighborhood in like New York or wherever the kid's living in, but it still just kind of stuck with me. The theme stuck with me a lot more, I think, than Martin did when I saw that. I've only seen that the once, so maybe I'll like it more when we do it for the show eventually. But
that's another one where I'm waiting for them to put out get a nice Blu-ray or something. So because I've only seen Martin once, and it's I don't remember much, but I think they have like a UK version. I don't know. This must be something about Romero, because I feel like a lot of his movies have been getting UK releases, but not in the US, like Dawn of the Dead and Martin and stuff. But
weird rights issues probably for the US.
But no, I agree though. This is a really very good movie.
Yeah, it's really good stuff. So that's my number 30. What was your number 37?
Keeping the vampire train going, my number 37 is Near Dark.
That will be a hold. You're correct.
Oh. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, but I'm sure you probably had this last time, I expect. Yeah, you had this at number 38 last time. Oh, that's very close. That's
oh wow.
That's one. You're one up from last time. Very good. So that was your 37. My 37, which is down a little bit from 27, is The Burbs.
Oh, okay. You can continue.
I've got all the unique picks apparently this time, but yeah. The Burbs is a horror comedy. It's a Joe Dante movie. I love Joe Dante, right? Dick Miller's in it, because you always have to have Dick Miller in a Joe Dante movie. You don't remember Dick Miller being a running thing in the last episode, do you? Okay.
I remember. Yeah.
All right. You just sold that as if it... but it's Tom Hanks and his neighbours, and they live in this typical American cul-de-sac, and they're all friendly with each other, and then this weird family move in who look like they're out of some horror movie, and it's all about the obsession of your neighbours and thinking that they're up to something, and it's just very endearing because it's kind of like these characters, whether you agree with what they're doing or not, it's like them suddenly having this obsession with trying to find out what these creepy neighbours are up to and if they're dangerous. I mean, you could argue it sends some of the wrong message in some way, but I think by the end it has a lot of heart, especially since, I mean, they do kind of turn out to be doing something. I'm not gonna lie. There's definitely stuff going on behind those creepy doors. But this is just like, I love Joe Dante movies, and it's all set in this one street. It's all about these fun characters. Corey Feldman's got a small role. Obviously, Joe Dante worked with him on Gremlins, so that was kind of like a friendly casting, I suppose. But there's just something so endearing about the characters he has in his movies, and it feels weird to say he's just so good at making fun, but he is. Like all of his. When I think of Explorers, I think of Gremlins, I think of Inner Space or anything else. They're all just so like endearing. It's just it's a very unique skill.
No, I mean, yeah, he's a master, and it's a shame that it feels like he doesn't really get as much recognition, or maybe he doesn't. His name doesn't always come up like in conversation like with some of the other greats and stuff. But I mean, he is like super reliable. Like I can't think of any movies that that are just like total flops or whatever. Like you said, they always have like this kind of whimsy or fun to them that they're very watchable. I do like The Burbs, but it's not a movie I grew up with, so I like it, but I don't really have as much nostalgia for it as I do like other Dante movies or kind of 80s comedies in general. But
it's funny you say that. I
enjoy it
because I didn't grow up with it either. I saw the first time I saw it was the Blu-ray. So it's just like I only saw Matinee for the first time last year finally, and I really liked that as well. Like the dude was honestly, I think The Howling's one of his worst movies.
Yeah,
what can I say? It's just the turn of events. All right, what's your number 36?
That would be the 2013 Evil Dead.
Oh, hold that son of a bitch. Okay, you were right. You don't win anything, but you were right. Okay, that was your number 36.
Those were easy ones, yeah.
Yeah, I figured they were. All right, my number. Oh, by the way, that's up for you, actually.
Oh, okay.
You had that at 79 last time.
Okay.
That shot right up. Good, Tim. It's the correct direction.
Legs.
It does have legs. Has more than 2 legs. So my number 36, which is up quite a bit as well, actually, from 57 last time, is the original version of The Omen.
Oh, okay. You may continue.
Oh, really? Okay, all right. So I watched all the Omens. We've not done them in the show yet, funnily enough, right? This is one of the, I guess, bigger franchises we've not gotten to yet. But I watched it.
Well, they have a new one coming out too, so we'll probably have to.
Wait, do they? What's this news?
Yeah, they just. I think it's like a prequel, of course, because you can't just do a sequel or whatever. But they just released like a teaser image or something.
Okay,
recently.
Well, fair enough. We'll have a reason to do it soon then, I guess. But I was doing a top 10 kills video, and I watched all 5 Omen movies. That's right, all 5. That's 1 through 4 in the remake. And I think 2 actually has some really cool kills in it. It's not a great movie, but the kills are really good. And then 3 has like 1 good kill, and then 4 is kind of laughably bad in places, so it's not a complete disaster to watch. The remake is painfully sit through though. Jesus, I am not looking forward to doing that on the show. But the first movie, I always liked the first movie, but when I watched it again, I was like, you know what, this actually does hold up better than I thought it did. The build up to the kill scenes are good. It is almost paced like a slasher movie in the way that it builds up to each of these kills, but teasing them via the glimpses you get in the photographs, and some of them are very memorable. I love the operatic score, the chanting. I think the performances of both Gregory Peck and David Warner, who would go on to be in a lot of stuff. He's a very varied character actor. Most people our age grew up with them in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: The Secret of the Ooze.
Brilliant performance.
Yeah. But he was in the Supergirl movie. He was in an episode of Babylon 5. He's played a couple of different Star Trek characters amongst whatever other small roles he's had. But he's in there. He's the photographer in The Omen. But as far as the movie goes, about building up to this idea of someone believing their son is the Antichrist, or the son of the Antichrist, it really does a good job convincing of that. And honestly, the movie's quite, like, for 1976, that first kill, which, I don't think it's spoiling much to say that the nanny hangs herself off the side of the house. Yeah. It's a very iconic scene. But her yelling, "It's all for you, Damien," smiling, and then hanging herself is super dark. And that moment, that scene holds up well, and Richard Donner's direction is wonderful. It's so well directed, and that was the thing that I'd forgotten about.
That's a Donner movie.
Yeah, like that's what he did before Superman. It was The Omen. It's such a weird bit of trivia because he did Superman, then Lethal Weapons, The Goonies. Like they're not all the same, but there's definitely kind of like he's sort of jumping between action and family a bit for the rest of his career. And then this is just like this is like a straight horror movie. And I think one of the things I said when I was talking about it the last time on a video was that maybe the reason why he never really did a horror movie again is because he just kind of nailed it so much that he didn't feel he needed to. Sure. He's like, I've done it. I've done what I can give to the horror world. I'm done.
So
it's good.
The Kubrick method.
Yeah, I did The Shining, then I'm good. I'm done.
I'm out.
I'm gonna go make Full Metal Jacket.
I do like this movie too, but I do feel like I need to probably like watch it one or two more times before maybe like adding it to the list or something. I've probably seen it once or twice, but it's been scattered throughout the years. I know I did a rewatch probably a few years ago at some point because I got the Blu-ray box set, and I watched all of them. And I mean, yeah, the first one definitely holds up and has lots of pretty memorable moments. And then obviously I have a cat named Damien, so I've spent many a time having to explain to people like, no, I named him after Batman's kid, not the Omen kid.
That's funny. I'll be honest, I think sometimes I forget that and just assume it's the Omen kid because it's the first thing I think of when I hear Damien.
I mean, I just gotta start accepting it. Either way, like sure, whatever. I mean, essentially, like I don't know if I've ever heard him explicitly say it in like any interviews or anything, but I assume Morrison named Damien after the Omen because he's like such a little shit.
Yeah, I mean it's a solid reasoning anyway. The lineage goes back to the Omen one way or the other, I suppose.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of like it's also again I always think it's interesting, talking about these things that have just permeated pop culture, but I feel like like we pretty much like lost out on the name Damien because like I feel like you can't name someone Damien and not think of that person as evil. Like like I feel like there's probably so many people that if they were thinking about naming their kid are just like we can't name our after like the most famous like evil baby.
There are some younger
history.
Damiens. There's Damien Chazelle, director. I think he's younger than the movie.
Okay, well maybe it's starting to kind of wear out, like maybe it's just like a generation or something, but I feel like we'd have a lot more Damiens if it wasn't for this movie.
I was going to say another one, but I think the other one I was thinking of was Damon, not Damien, so disregard. All right, that was my 36. What's your number 35, Timmy?
That would be Barbarian.
Wait, is this
if you unhold?
This might be an unhold. Yeah, this is an unhold. I had that at 60. So very good.
Okay, there you go. So I think this came out last year, right?
Yeah, last year. It was last October,
okay, yeah.
Or maybe it was September, but it was still out during October season.
Yeah, this was so relatively new. This is just such a an impressive debut. I thought. There is something pretty unique about the movie that you really don't want to spoil. But it is such going in one of the classic movies that like you kind of have to go in cold. Like I feel bad for anyone that had it ruined for them. But there's such a turn that was so surprising, and the director Zach Greger, I believe. Who has a comedy background, so it's very interesting that he well, I guess it's not that interesting because we see lots of examples like this, like Jordan Peele obviously being the other big one, but just really like knocked it out of the park. He's so good at creating tension, especially like the first 20, 30-ish minutes of the movie where you think it's going this one way, and it does such a good job of making you like try to think ahead and what's going to happen and like doubting characters' motives, and then just upending that, and then actually incorporating lots of really cool horror elements. So this is just such a impressive movie. I thought. I was kind of blown away with how good the direction was, like right from the first second, like the first scenes of this woman going to an Airbnb and the tension of waiting outside in the rain, of not being able to get in, the misunderstanding, like and if you go in cold like you should, you're like, well, where's this going? Is the guy that's here going to
is he bad, or is she bad? Like who's vulnerable here? What's like? It really plays with your expectations continuously and goes places. I liked it a lot. I just didn't. I mean, you gave it a 10 when we reviewed it, and I was like, I really liked it, but I'm not jumping straight to the 10. But it's one of the more memorable horror movies from a new creative mind. And like you said, he's been around in other forms, but in the horror world, he's a new director. So, yeah, I'm game. Which, by the way, reminds me, did you see the first photo from Robert Eggers' Nosferatu today?
Oh, buddy, I was like, I was sinking in my chair. I can't wait. Again, if you want to put like a side bet or something, I don't know. Maybe I'm starting to develop a gambling problem, but I mean, I feel like that's gonna be, the movie of 2024. Like, I can't imagine something will be better than that.
I feel like if it's not in discussion for best horror, and I'm not saying there won't be something else that surprises us, because honestly I hope there will be.
Absolutely, obviously. Yeah.
But if it's not in the discussion for best horror movie of 2024, then it's at least a little disappointing.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. Anyway, so that was your 35 and my 60 or whatever I said. So my number 35, which is down just a little bit from 28 from last time, is Scream.
Okay, you may continue.
I thought, yeah. Scream, it's important. I think there's a lot of people in my generation who Scream is one of the first horror movies they kind of saw, which is funny because it's obviously very referential and inspired and calling back to a lot of other horror movies. But it definitely sort of had a zeitgeist thing about it. It was in pop culture in a way when it came out, and I remember watching it when it hit the movie channels, which is when I saw it, I believe, for the first time, which meant it was probably 1997 when I saw it. I would, if I was to guess, maybe late 96. So I was young, right? So it may have been, if not the first horror movie I saw, then certainly in the first handful. But I was drawn to them. I remember actually feeling tension as a kid watching some of the scenes because I wasn't used to any of that yet. Now nothing phases me, but when I was 7 or 8, it did hit a little bit. It's just, it's got its own gimmicks. Is the whole calling the victim, taunting them over the phone. This was right around the time when a mobile phone or a cell phone was really starting to become more common amongst people, and in this case teenagers who could use them in this way, and it used it to real great effect. I mean, to be honest, like, I think I sometimes think of mobile phones not being common until like 98, 99, and then I remember, oh no, but Scream. Like, Scream already had them. And maybe that was a little ahead of the game, but I don't really think so. I think Craven and Co. really crafted this thing around a new piece of technology that I don't think is aged badly. I feel like sometimes when new movies try to like incorporate like new things like social media or specific things like smartphones, they sometimes feel outdated very quick. But I think because just the idea of having a cell phone has not really changed. The phones themselves have gotten more advanced, obviously, but I don't think it's hindered it over time. But yeah, it's very memorable. It's got a lot of characters and a lot of quotes that you can think of quite quickly. Yeah, I don't have much more. There's fun set pieces. There's the I'll just say the camera with the delay is a really great bit that always stuck out when I was younger. So.
No, I mean, it's certainly, a masterpiece. I'm sure a lot of people, especially our age, would attest. I think there's a lot to like, but I don't know. I just feel like I'm just not much of a slasher guy, and I think that, like, if you notice, like, my taste in slashers, like, a lot of times will tend towards like the goofier, sillier kind of ones.
Yeah, that's true. I can notice that.
But I mean, it's not like I obviously don't hate slashers, and even like very good ones, like I'll appreciate on a level. Like I like Scream a lot. It's just not like a personal favorite of mine, but I totally understand why people, especially of our around the age of us or so, are very captivated by it.
Yeah. And people with bad taste our age also think I Know What You Did Last Summer is like one of the best horror movies ever made, and that is baffling.
That's the worst thing about Scream, is like just the wave of imitators that it led to.
Yeah. Some of them are kind of like fun bad to watch now, because they kind of take you back to this weird time in your life where I remember all these trashy Scream knockoffs coming out over the and it was very mainstream. It wasn't like it was these underground. It was like, no, that was It was like Columbia TriStar putting out I Know What You Did Last Summer. It was I can't remember who put out Urban Legend, but it was another studio. Another big studio. Anyway, no, Scream's a great time. It's important to my, like, let's be honest, there wasn't a lot of important horror in the 90s for my generation to cling on to.
Sure, yeah.
All right,
that's fair.
And Scream was about it.
I feel like going back, like, the last couple of years of doing this show, like, I have found like little gems here and there from the 90s, but yeah, it was pretty bare. Because
I think we did a list from the 90s, did we not? And I remember saying we were going to do a top.
Sounds about right.
We were going to do like a top 50, and then we realized I don't think we can, and I said top 25. And then I think eventually I was like, no, it's just a top 20. And it was just purely because as we tried to make our list, we realized that we don't like enough of these movies to have it be a top 50 or even a top 25. So yeah, the 90s is a bit of a tougher time. Obviously, later in life, I've discovered things like Ringu and Audition, and but that, again, notably foreign movies that were, being held up as some of the
didn't
best.
have access there. Yeah.
So anyway, that's my number 35. What is your number 34?
Well, speaking of foreign movies, my number 34 is House, aka Hausu, the 1977 Japanese film.
Yeah, you may continue, although I will tell you this is down a little bit. You had this at 24 last time.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I mean, this is just an absolute insane movie, but it is like my kind of bag. It is just, it's very vibrant and colorful and wacky and silly, but in such a fun way. I mean, you have like killer pianos and floating heads biting people on the butt.
Tim, I was about to say, we did this on the show because you made me, and I think the only thing I could maybe remember was some screaming girls and a floating piano, but I may be mixing up two different things there.
I mean, well, I don't know what kind of movies you're watching, but I mean, there's definitely that stuff that's in there. All the characters are, of course, just named after what they're interested in. So you have Kung Fu and I forget if it was like books or just smart. So it's
Fidget
just like
spinners.
Yeah. So it's like this weird level of surrealness. But I mean, that's what really makes it stand out for me, is that it's so weird, but also so, again, to use a term, hypnotic. Like it's like it's very crazy, but but also very vibrant and colorful in a way that just looks absolutely amazing. And yeah, it's one I like to come back and watch every now and again, because I just enjoy the kind of world that it sets up. It's so weird and bizarre.
It's definitely weird. I didn't hate watching it, but I definitely couldn't tell you much about it, even though I saw it. So, credit to the weird one, I guess. My number 34 is an unhold, and that is it's up a little bit from 38 last time for me, and that is the Blair Witch Project.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is a movie that I remember not liking until we did it for the show, and then I went, you know what, this movie actually is kind of genius, and I feel bad that I've just ignored it for like 15, 20 years.
So you had seen it before, but then it's not like you had never seen it, right?
Yeah, I had seen it when I was relatively young and didn't like it, and then when we did it for the show, I'm like, actually, this movie's great. What was it? Like, I was just wrong. Young me was wrong. So. Yeah, it's very good. It's very inventive. It the actual forest they're trapped in feels really creepy. The things that happen to them just do feel like these little, like, walking in a big circle when even though they've been walking in one direction. It just feels like some force is keeping them from leaving, and so much of it's your imagination, but it always feels like really smart with how it's doing it, and it never just feels like, I feel like when you watch other movies try to pull this shit, you kind of just end up going, you can't show anything, so you're saying this, but this is so smart, the way they realize certain things and the way that their demeanor changes as they get more scared, as they start to lose hope that they're ever going to leave the forest. And the ending's iconic, so it's great stuff.
Yeah, I absolutely love the way they set up the lore in this. Like, they do such a, and I guess it helps that it's like, yeah, they're making like a fake they're making like a documentary and stuff, but yeah, the way it kind of dishes out like the little snippets of the legend and stuff, and then we start to see it, unfold to them in the woods. Yeah, I think this is another one with me as well, where like I remember watching it and liking it when it first came out. And then I do think I don't think I ever hated it, but there was a part of me that thought like, well, it is get like a little boring in the middle and stuff. And I do think there are parts that are kind of slow and stuff, but it's like, again, it kind of works in a strange way because of, yeah, like what you're setting up and what you're watching. And it's, I mean, we're so used to it now, but like at the time it came out, like there'd been a few found footage things before, but this was kind of like a new experience. Like, you know,
and funnily enough, I think it's still one of the best. Like I think so many other found footage movies just do the tropes, and I feel like this doesn't. I feel like for the most part, it's doing interesting things, and the characters. And I think this is the big thing for me: is the characters feel like real people. Like they have that perfect blend of not feeling like actors, but not just being shit at acting. If that makes any sense, where you're not going,
I agree.
you know. Oh, there's something in the forest over there. I'm getting scared. Like, you know, there's none of that. But there's also this kind of natural quality to them where it feels like, yeah, you don't feel like you've acted in stuff, and you probably haven't acted in much since either. Like, you feel like you're just flashing a pan. And I mean that in a good way. Like, lightning struck, and this was the perfect combination of talent, and the roughness of it makes it feel more real. To the point where people at the time, actually, some people thought it was a real bit of footage, and obviously it's not. They wouldn't put it in theaters if it was footage of people dying. Like, how stupid can people be? But
I think, like, I don't think I ever went that far to think that, but I do remember, like, being kind of confused by it. Like, just being like, all right, so wait, what exactly is this? Like, all right, so it's not real, but is it like I don't even remember like what I thought, but yeah, no, it's just it's very interesting to see like, yeah, where we've come from, like to be around like the start of like a new type of movie.
And I think, like I was saying with the characters, like I think if their fear and reactions to what was going on didn't feel as real as it does, I don't think all these things that we never see that is just implied via what we don't see would have any effect. I think the whole thing would fall flat. I think it's so important to that movie that they feel genuinely terrified, and they do, so that's why it works.
Yeah, it's also has become like a big like comfort fall film for me too. Like I just love seeing the like crunchy leaves and stuff. Like
you're like, honey, it's Thanksgiving, it's time for Blair Witch Project.
Well, it's more about like usually the start of October, maybe like late November, or I'm sorry, late September, like leading into October. I feel like it's a good bridge from like, you know, going full horror movie October watching and just being like, all right, no, it's like, you know, start of fall and leaves are falling and it's getting a little cooler. I don't know, just it gives me those fall vibes, especially like, you know, now that I'm on the West Coast, I don't get that kind of East Coast fall anymore, and you know, so it kind of brings me back to that a little bit.
Brings you back to a time when there was actually seasons.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. That was my number 34. What was your 33?
That would be Carrie from 1976.
Oh, interesting. This is a new entry for you.
Ooh, okay.
Also, hold.
Okay. All right.
So that was your 33, you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. I hold. Very
Dirty Tree.
Dirty Tree. I'm from Ireland. Dirty Tree. I apologize to any Irish audience members that are listening to this.
I don't.
Yeah, but they're more like neighbors to me. I have to be nice to them.
That's true.
I'll do like an offensive American accent happily, Tim, without feeling bad about it. You got a pretty mad boy.
Oh dear.
That's offensive, right? Okay. My number 33, which is actually up one space from last time, from 34, and that is Wreck.
That is an unhold. Okay,
right.
I 53. Mm-hmm.
Okay, unhold. Good. Mm-hmm. Found footage, funnily enough. I had two found footage in a row. I didn't even realize that or mean it. Well, it's one of my favorite found footage movies because I think it justifies why the characters keep filming more than normal, because this is literally a reporter who wants to have a juicy story, which is the best reason for them to want to keep, like, because if they think they're going to survive and get back to a news station with all this footage, they think, oh, that's it, my career's made. That's That's awards up the ass, baby. Like I'm going straight to the Pulitzer.
Awards up the ass.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, this is the movie where it's this reporter and our cameraman doing just a crappy like, oh, we're going to hang out with the firefighters throughout the night and see what they get up to, and when they get called out at like 2 a.m. But when they get called out to this apartment building, it's actually a zombie outbreak. And the actual tension rising as it spreads throughout the building, and the building gets quarantined from the outside, and they're not allowed outside. All that stuff's really fun, and I think it's a really effective movie because of that. I think on top of all that, though, I think the last 10 minutes gives a really cool lore dump where it's like, hey, this isn't like a typical zombie movie. There's a slightly more... It's almost like it's borrowing from a different subgenre, the reason for the zombie outbreak. And I think that's really interesting. I think the last 10 minutes, it's a good movie, and then the last 10 minutes elevate it to like, okay, this is like something I'm never going to forget because of the way it wrapped up.
I think, and this is probably maybe some of the worst lessons that other found footage movies find or got from like the Blair Witch Project, but I feel like there's a lot of found footage movies that are just dull and boring until like the last 5 or 10 minutes, and then that's when they have their big set piece or whatever. What's great about this is, yes, the last 10 minutes are phenomenal. Very tired. But,
we're not even in the 20s yet, Tim. Come on.
I know. But the whole movie, though, it's paced really well. Like, it's like there really isn't a dull moment. Like, even the start of the movie,
it's ups and downs. It's like a roller coaster. There's lots of like, because the zombies are fast zombies, so there's all these adrenaline moments where like something's charging at them or whatever.
Yeah, like even like when you're setting up the characters and stuff, they're very likable. So it's like not really like you're not looking at your watch being like, all right, let's get to the good stuff. Like, no, it's all very charming, and and I feel like the horror kind of starts pretty quickly, and then even when there are like the calmer moments, like it does a good job of like creating tension and just this idea of like what the hell's going on, that it really keeps you on your seat.
And this is the opposite of Blair Witch, is that we're not in like an infinite forest where it feels like there's nothing to recognize. It feels more like, no, we get to know the building, we know the lobby, we don't know every floor, but we get the idea of what the layouts are and where the doors are. So it sets up, okay, this floor is dangerous now, we have to go past it to try and get somewhere else. You get used to the layout of the building, so you start to be able to sort of understand and anticipate where they have to run to, and that you can sort of like see certain moments coming in a way that's intended, where you're like, oh shit, if they go past there, that's going to go into that zombie, because we know that they're in there or something. Like, there's a sense of like understanding the layout that I think works really well with Rec.
Absolutely.
So no, it's very good. That was my number 33. What is your 32?
That would be Suspiria 1977. Which
what?
Oh, I thought you were gonna jump in.
No, you may continue, but this is down from 22.
Oh, okay, there you go. I just think I didn't realize this when I was doing the list, but I just realized I had House, which I only put the year when it's like a movie that had a remake or something, so I need to differentiate. But I didn't realize I had House from 1977, then Carrie 1976, and then Suspiria 1977. So that's just kind of funny.
Oh, because it's sequential. Very good.
Well, 77, 76, then back to 77.
Oh, okay. Right.
But no, I mean, I'm an Argento fanboy, and obviously Suspiria is kind of like a lot of people's fan favorites. When it comes to him, and there's definitely a lot to like. Obviously the music is very iconic in this. The Goblin soundtrack, it is very atmospheric and haunting. There's a lot of like really cool kills, and then a lot of like that just really like vibrant giallo look to it, like the blood and stuff, and there's just kind of this weirdly otherworldliness to it that I don't know, I really like the atmosphere, and it's very weird, very captivating.
Yeah, it's very pretty. I think the plot's a little bit just kind of light though for me in this one, so I don't like it as much as some of his other movies. Like I like Tenebrae more. I like Crystal Plumage more. I like Deep Red, Cat and Nine Tails. Like, you know, I was like a whole list of these movies that I like more than Suspiria. But I do like see why people like it though. It's very pretty.
Yeah, no, I think like I agree. Like the story isn't like amazing or anything by any stretch, but I think yeah, the big sell of the movie is the look and the soundtrack. Again, is like those together just make it such a, I don't know. It's like an endless rewatchability for me. Like I really like that look and sound of it.
All right. Well, my number 32 is a very quick unhold because my number 32 is Carrie.
Okay.
Yeah, see that.
Very close. Just missed it.
Yeah. Also a new entry for me as well. So neither of us had Carrie last time, but we both have it this time. That's very interesting.
Yeah, De Palma, baby. That's the magic of
Well, I think it's interesting though because we when we did it for the show, it seems like both of us sort of realized, oh wait, this is like, because we'd both seen it before, but neither of us had it in our previous top 100. But when we did it for the show, we both came out of that review being like, you know what, this is pretty great. Like, you know, I hadn't seen this since I was not young, but you know, a good decade at least prior.
Well, I think this is like a classic case of, you probably watch something when you're in maybe late middle school or high school or something, when you're, starting to get interested in movies and you're checking out the classics, and then you probably watching it like, oh, that's pretty good. But then, we're watching it now as, seasoned pros.
Yes, that's what we are.
And you start to realize like, oh no, this is like brilliant. Yeah, like the acting is great, and there's lots of like really cool, interesting shots, and obviously, Brian De Palma is,
the cinematography is great. I like the actual, the prom sequence when things go bad. The look in Carrie's face as her face is covered in blood is exceptional.
Yeah.
And there's great music. It's got all these, the subtext is obviously there. That's been about a young woman growing up and like it's about repression. It's about the fears of a woman being sexual and all that stuff. And her mother is just one of the easiest to hate characters of like cinema. She's so easy to hate. And honestly, like Stephen King, like quite often Stephen King has now admittedly I know this is the movie, so they might have like adjusted things a little bit, but typically I think of Stephen King as not being very good at ending stories. But I think Carrie ends very, very well. And I think it's one of his... I think, there's about 4 or 5 movies based on Stephen King stories that I think are actually great. And I think Carrie was one that I'd never considered to be that great until we did it for the show. And I was like, you know what? I've obviously grown a lot and become a lot more... my taste has solidified a lot. I feel like it jumped up immensely for me on that viewing, and I just watched that again recently. I watched it last month in October.
Oh, nice.
And it holds up. It's paced very well. On top of obviously Sissy Spacek as the lead, Nancy Allen's great as the Billy character. You got Spielberg's wife in there, and then you've got John Travolta in a small role. Like everyone's good. It looks gorgeous, and it just builds up perfectly, and it's all about something. It's the perfect concoction. It's a very unique horror movie because it is just building up to one big horrific scene, but it very much works.
Yeah, but they do such a good job of building it up though. Like you can, it's hard to blame her for doing what she did. You know what I mean? Like obviously you shouldn't do that, but. Her life is just so sad. Like you really feel for her. Like she's just constantly, like you just want her to have a win so bad, and then one time that it looks like things are maybe like going her way, like everything goes to shit.
It puts you in her head very effectively. You understand why she thinks the way she does, and why she's been like why she has this really sheltered view of the world because of how her mom's raised her and talks to her and so on.
And it's so funny. Like I don't know if this is necessarily true or if it's just kind of lore or whatever. But they say that like, I think Stephen King was like struggling for a while to get anything sold or published. And I believe the story goes is that he kind of like threw this away in the trash or whatever, and like his wife pulled it out. It was like, no, this is actually like pretty good. Like
I've heard this as well, although the more specific detail that I heard was that when he threw it out, he said, what business have I got writing a story about a girl growing up? I don't know anything about that. And that's why it's kind of key that his wife's the one that took it out. And no, this is good. Finny shit.
And then it's like, yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's like his first book published, and then like, you know, the movie, you know, the rights sold right away, and then you know, if this movie wasn't so big and popular, I'm, you know, wonder what, you know, Stephen King's career would look like if.
That's true. Yeah, because like he wasn't Stephen King yet, really. Like he hadn't developed that credibility. So it's wild.
Like people are advertising the movie like, you know, based on the book by Stephen King. People are like, who? Like,
and how many of his movie adaptations are shit? Like he gets so lucky that this one was good.
Oh yeah, I mean I love Stephen King to death, you know, but yeah, I agree. There's probably like only a handful of his movies that stand out as being like legitimately good. Like there's probably a lot that are, you know, fun, bad, or whatever. But I mean, there's definitely plenty that are like unwatchable. But yeah, I mean, this is like top tier.
All right, Tim, what is your number 31?
My number 31 would be The Lighthouse.
Oh, that has to be a new entry because it didn't exist last time. You may continue.
I mean, you know, we were just talking about Robert Eggers earlier. I love his stuff. This is such a great demented like look into madness. Like just these two people wonderfully going crazy together. You know, Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, they just work so well off each other, and you know, it looks great, and again, it's another one that's just like very weird and off-putting, but it's very hypnotic, you know, watching you know, these two men just go crazy together.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a hell of a watch, and I feel like I might appreciate it more in a second viewing, but I definitely I love this distinct visual style, the choice to do it in what was basically a 4:3 to make the lighthouse look tall, stuff like that. I very much appreciate it, and I like The Witch a lot. I think I'm excited for Nosferatu because I think Nosferatu and the style of The Witch is something that I very much think is going to click together for me.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So I'm excited for that. All right, my number 31, which is up a little bit actually from 40, is Ginger Snaps.
Ooh, okay. You may continue.
So, frankly, I think it's the best werewolf movie that has ever been made. It's funny that I've got this paired next to Carrie because they're both movies about
that's true, yeah.
girls, you know, hitting puberty and blossoming, as it will. And Carrie, it was telekinesis. And Ginger Snaps, the analogy for menstruation is the werewolf cycle and becoming a monster. So you can see some parallels there between the two movies. But Catherine Isabel's great as Ginger. Emily Perkins is great as the sister, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head. But they are these best friends and sisters. And then Ginger gets bit by a werewolf and starts to become more sexualized because she's starting to get a thirst for meat, for some man meat. And at first she thinks it's just for sex reasons, but then it's like, no, she wants the blood, she wants the meat. And her sisters try to like solve the problem and maybe cure her, maybe figure out whatever. I love just how like odd this movie feels in terms of its world and tone, because it really feels like these two kind of emo gothy sisters who are kind of outcasts, trying to stay out, because the movie opens with them doing their art project, which is a series of photographs where they look like they've been killed in various ways. So you get this like all these photographs as the credits play over them, and then that's kind of sets up the tone of the movie, and the kind of it feels like we're seeing the entire world through their outlook. And they're in Canada. It's a Canadian movie. Maybe this might be the highest ranking Canadian movie on my list.
Might be the best Canadian movie, yeah.
It might be, yeah. I'd have to double check what other movies count as Canadian, but I think this is great. I think the way it builds to the werewolf stuff, the werewolf looks solid. I think the werewolves are tough to do in movies. Like so many of them end up looking
That's
bad.
fair, yeah.
But I remember the first time I saw this, I just caught it late night on like the Sci-Fi Channel, and I remember just having it on in the background. And then as it was playing, I got sucked into the story. I really started to care about it and care about what was happening. And before I knew it, I was sitting down just watching the movie. This is back at the tail end of when that was still a thing for me, was just catching movies on TV, because it's been a long time since I've done that.
Yeah.
But I found Ginger Snaps and thought it was an instant gem for me. And it probably wasn't even that old when I saw it because it only came out in 2000, what, 2? Something like that? No, 2000. I think it was 2000.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's kind of funny. We might have talked about this on the show, but even though it's 2000, it still feels like it has like a little bit of that like 90s, like charm and aesthetic to it. But no, I mean, I agree. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. I think one of the big selling points is the two leads, just they work really well off each other, and they're very likable. And I do think like you said, it is hard doing werewolves, and I'm assuming they didn't have like a huge budget, so I do think some of the werewolf stuff maybe falls like a little bit for me, but it's not that big a deal. It's still a very entertaining, watchable movie.
Yeah, I love it a lot. That's my number 31. What is your number 30, Tim?
I forget if this is an unhold. You might have mentioned it earlier, but my number 30 is Audition.
I think I did. I think that is an unhold.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it was 58. You're free to continue.
Yeah, I mean, this is another one where it's. I mean, it's been out for a while, so people probably know, I guess, kind of the spoiler or whatever. But
new entry for you, by the way.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, if for some reason you don't know what it's about, or if you're going into it cold or whatever, the first, I don't know, half or so of the movie, you probably wouldn't even know it's a horror movie at all. Like, it feels like a romantic comedy, which it's and I just love that. Yeah, it takes so much time to set that up, which makes the horror like such a swerve.
It kind of has the cycle structure where you're just kind of doing a simple plot in the first half, kind of the awkward romance about a guy who fakes a movie to have casting auditions, but he's actually just looking for a girlfriend.
Yeah,
and the movie's about how he gets his comeuppance, because that's obviously not a good thing to do. He's auditioning girlfriends. That's pretty shitty.
Yeah,
under the guise of giving them a job. But given the poster, you're probably going to go in at least knowing that he gets more than he bargained for with the lady.
Yeah, I mean, this was part of the early 2000s kind of. I mean, the movie's like from the 90s, but it was like that kind of 2000s wave of Japanese horror is hot right now.
Yeah, I remember Tartan Video, which was the DVD label in the UK, that did Ringu. They also instantly, here's Grudge, here's Audition, here's Dark Water, here's all these movies from that sort of era in Japan.
Yeah, and then it's just so I don't think I knew the exact plot or whatever going into it. I just knew it was one of those ones that people talk about, it's really messed up. Just watch it. And then this is another one where I feel like the ending is very iconic, very memorable. People remember the sound she's making as she's doing a very specific thing, and then
I just remember a bag.
Oh, that too. That again, you're talking about, most of the movie you're going through thinking it's this one thing, and once it cuts to the bag, it's everything changes.
Yeah, the movie just grinds to a halt, but not in a bad way. Because usually when I say that, I mean it's a bad thing for pacing. This grinds to a halt and says, no. This is what this movie is.
Yeah.
And in this one occasion, it works out quite well because it's really cool. So yeah. Audition, very nice pick. That's number 30 for you. My number 30, down a little bit from 18, is Prince of Darkness. But could be an unhold actually. Now I'm thinking about it.
Oh, I know I have it somewhere. It just depends.
I could.
Yeah.
I might even be able to tell you where you've got it if you've already said it.
Okay, yeah, I had it at 42.
There we go. Yeah, John Carpenter movie, which I feel like gets underappreciated. So I think you having it in your 40s and me having it at the top of my 30s is probably, it's nice to give it some love, because I feel like people do gloss over it and don't like it. I love this movie. It's
so good.
It's basically they find this weird chamber of liquid that is giving off energy, and it's being studied in a church because and it's maybe demonic in nature or something. And
I mean, it's liquid Satan basically.
Yeah. You've got Donald Pleasance playing a priest. You've got this team of college students who come in to study it and research it. And so the movie's set in this church, but outside the church you see like more and more homeless people like gravitating towards the building. And as the movie goes on, you realize that it's maybe building up to some kind of apocalypse. And it's so cool. And I can't really spoil it, but one of my favorite things about the movie is there's a few little things they do that really hint at this much larger mythology that it only just kind of like teases. But there's this idea of, I'll just say there's an idea of like at least one of the characters getting some information from somewhere. And it's such a cool little idea that just expands what the movie really is that I really love. I like the ending a lot. Yeah, for me, like, this is honestly John Carpenter's last great movie. I know you like In the Mouth of Madness, and I know other people do too, but for me, this is his last great movie, is Prince of Darkness.
Yeah, I mean, I really like when John Carpenter gets weird. Like, this is like a weird ass movie, and yeah, that's one of the reasons why I like In the Mouth of Madness. Is I think that's like really weird too. Like, I like him just going like kind of crazy. And this is such a bizarre movie, but that's what makes it like so cool and interesting. And obviously it's Carpenter, so you know the score is good. You know it looks awesome, and there's really badass moments. Yeah, there's a lot to love about it, and I agree. Like you said, it's a little odd that it's kind of like forgotten about. Like obviously horror fans know it, but you know it hasn't broken through the cultural conscience like you know, Halloween or Thing has. You know,
I think there is a group of people who don't think it's that good. I think it does get shot on by some people, which is a shame because I actually think it's really good. I think it's better than some of the movies that people hold up higher from John Carpenter.
Sure,
you know, no, obviously there's some that I like more, which we'll get to. But yeah, Prince of Darkness is my number 30. Tim, what is your 29?
That'd be Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
This is down for you. You had it at 18 last time.
Okay.
Also, you may continue.
I feel like a lot of the stuff that's gone down, they've been like just down by 10.
Yeah,
it seems to be.
There's been a few of those recently.
Yeah, I mean, I love this movie. This is like another, you know, I've been talking about, you know, a lot of movies that I haven't had much nostalgia for. This I have a ton of nostalgia for. I think I saw it like at a sleepover once, and just, you know, knowing who Freddy was, but not really seeing the other movies, just being very like perplexed by it. And it's also like probably an example of like the first kind of like meta thing I've seen. Yeah, I just love this to death. Like I love the ideas of like when you have you know, like meta stories about like, you know, stories or characters kind of breaking out into the real world. And I think it's just such a clever idea of, yeah, like a demon who, you know, is taking on the guise of, you know, this like actual like, you know, scary pop culture figure to, you know, instill fear and stuff, and then working all like the, you know, like real life actors and stuff into it. I just think it's so fun. I think it's really smart. My one critique is like, yeah, there's some like CGI stuff that doesn't super hold up, and you know, some of the people that aren't really actors like Bob Shay and stuff like are, you know, they stand out a bit, but I still think it's such a solid movie and so fun and has so many cool ideas. I really love it.
Which is saying something. He's just playing himself. Like, you're just playing Bob Shay, Bob Shay. Can't you do Bob Shay? Yeah. I mean, I think it's a really cool concept. For me, I don't think it is a completely satisfying movie. I think the pacing's a bit awkward at times, and it sounds really fun on paper, but I don't think the movie actually is that fun. So I think I'm a bit more lukewarm on Wes Craven's New Nightmare, but I get why people like it.
And again, like I'll totally admit a lot. I do have a lot of nostalgia for it, and I mean I've said before that, you know, Nightmare is like one of my really favorite go-to franchises. So yeah, there's a lot of love for me going into it. All
right, my number 29 is a new entry, and it is Happy Death Day.
Oh, crap. All right, so that was 28 for me. I guess I just skipped 29.
Oh no! Well, I'll change your number to 20.
Go back to it.
Yeah, I'll change that to 28, and you can tell me 29 next.
Okay, sorry.
You silly sausage. Okay, my number 29 is Happy Death Day.
Continue.
Yeah, I figured as much. Yeah, I loved Happy Death Day. This was one that as soon as it came out and I saw it in theaters, I just instantly kind of fell in love with it. It's a very light horror film as far as the horror goes. Obviously, you've got this character being stalked and killed, but the main premise of the movie is it's a Groundhog Day style loop movie where this character Tree is waking up after being murdered every time and knows she's going to be murdered and tries to solve it. But what makes it work, like all the best time loop movies, particularly Edge of Tomorrow or obviously Groundhog Day itself, is that there's a really great character arc where she starts off being entertaining even though she's kind of shitty, but as the movie goes on, becomes better and grows, and the way she evolves and the way it shows her evolving, like every time loop movie has that I don't even know if there's a name for it, but it's like that first few minutes when they wake up where all the things that happen every time to show that she's living the same day again, and then how she like sort of slightly changes them as each loop happens and interacts with them. That thing is such a set in stone thing throughout the movie that I loved it. So it's a lot of fun. I think it's entertaining. I think it's got a very, very witty script in how it tells its story, and I think
It's a lot of fun. I don't think I maybe have as much of a love for it as some other people, but I mean, I do think it was good. I think especially the performance from the lead actress. She's great. Surprised that she hasn't really popped up, or at least as far as I know, hasn't popped up in too much else, or at least stuff that's been on my radar. But she's great.
Yeah, I like her a lot too. She was in an episode or two of an Amazon show recently. I do hope to see her in more stuff as time goes on. Because she's great in that and the sequel. She's really good in. So
she's a good actress, but God, I hate the sequel so much. That might be one of the reasons why I look down on this movie a little bit, because the sequel is just one of the worst things I've ever seen.
I disagree with that assessment.
It's so bad.
I disagree. Come on, Tim. We have seen absolute shite on our show. You cannot tell me Happy Death Day 2 is on the same realm as some garbage like Leprechaun Back to the Hood.
I'd probably watch that over that.
I'm sure you would, you sick bastard. All right, well, that was my number 29. All right, so you should be going to your 28, but you just did your 28, so now you're going back to your 29.
It's like a time loop. This might be an on hold. I forget if you mentioned it before, but my number 29 is Psycho 2.
Yeah. Actually, I had this down at 93. It was a while ago, but yeah, very good.
I don't know. I just really love this movie, and I think what we did on the show is a relatively new watch for me. I think for a long time I just assumed the Psycho sequels were shit. I mean, why would they have any reason to be good? And that is one of those ones where I, bought the box set because horror. I like physical horror collector. I like physical media and all this stuff. And then I went to have the box set, and then I was so pleasantly surprised when I watched this. I thought it was really funny. It was really smart. I think it's very unique again in the realm of horror movies. Like I can't think of any other movie that really does this premise where you have just the villain, this absolute like evil person from the first one, and he's like totally rehabilitated in this. Like he's like trying to be a good person, and I think it's so fascinating that the world, the town, like everything in the movie is fighting against him, just trying to be normal and good. Like he just wants to kind of be left alone and do his thing in peace, but like everything about the movie wants him to be like, no, you are the psycho, remember. you must start killing people again. I just think it's a really fun, fascinating watch.
Yeah, I'd seen this once before we did it on the show. I bought the Scream Factory Blu-ray when it came out about a decade or so ago, and I remember enjoying it at the time and thinking, that was actually pretty good, despite the fact that I wasn't sure what to expect from a sequel to Psycho. And obviously the first one's this masterpiece that changed the face of horror and all the rest of it, so it's never going to be equal to that. But Psycho 2 does have a unique premise. It makes the villain from the first movie this sympathetic lead who's trying to be normal, and everyone else is almost forcing him to like not be normal, and it's kind of sad. It's like a tragedy watching this movie play out. And there's killings happening, and everyone thinks it's him, and it may be him. We don't know as the audience, but that's part of what the movie is. Psycho 2 is kind of great. It's a great little movie, honestly. Yeah.
It's very like campy, I feel like, which I really love. Like the line I always think about that still makes me laugh is, I think like there's like an angry person at the restaurant or whatever he's working at. I think they say something like, "Why don't you go kill someone?" And he just snaps at him and goes, "I don't do that anymore." It's just like so funny.
Nah, there's great little moments like the woman that he's helping like hands him a knife when she's making some food, and then she sort of looks at it and goes, "Oh no, what have I just done?" No, and Perkins is great. Perkins makes the movie
phenomenal. Yeah.
Sing like it's a genuine surprise of a movie. Psycho 2 is great. So.
And it's like it's another one where this one isn't like overtly meta. I feel like Wes Craven's New Nightmare or something. But I mean, I don't even know if it was the intention, but it feels like a very meta movie to me because there's so much stuff like that where, it feels like the people in the movie are aware of like the movie Psycho. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
the way, it wasn't looking at him and stuff. Like,
it wasn't a movie to them, but yeah, like they are aware of what he did.
But it just feels like they're like acting like we in the audience would and stuff, which again just it's really funny and stuff. But
it's good. It's good fun. My number 28, which we're on now,
yes,
is an on-hold new entry for me because it didn't exist really when we did the last list, and that is Train to Busan.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, this is.
You may continue.
Well, I know I may continue. You already said it. Train to Busan is one of the best horror movies of the last decade or so. It's one of the best zombie movies. It sort of staked its claim. It is now the movie you think of when you think of zombies on a train. It is taking that. It's like it's this dad taking his young daughter on a train to Busan to leave her at her mother's. So. Right away at the start of the movie, it sets up these characters and their arcs. Like, this is a dad who's like cares too much about work and he's abandoning his daughter. His daughter's upset about it. It sets up like teenagers on the train who might have a romance or a flirtation with each other. There's like an evil, like one of the most easy to hate evil characters. Like, there's this guy who's just out for himself. Yeah. But it sets up its own lore. It sets up its own zombie rules, and it sets up some great set pieces where they have to try and sneak through a train car that's full of zombies. I won't say how they do it because that's a big part of the movie, but all those little segments are all really exciting and they're tense. It's got character arcs, and the ending is kind of beautiful and perfect. Like, honestly, as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, all right, this is instantly in the top 5 zombie movies of all time. There's not even a question.
Yeah, actually, that might be a fun list if we do like a top 10 zombie movies or something. At some point.
We totally could.
But this was another one too where it was. I feel like it was right at the time where, I was so zombied out, But this was such like a breath or a breath of fresh air, it's so cool, it's so fun, the characters are great. There's like this one guy you kind of like hate at first, and then he ends up becoming such like a not like the villain, but like the kind of like the more obnoxious guy, but then he ends up becoming like so badass, and
he's like the hero almost, actually. Yeah
and like the zombies are really cool. They think of fun new inventive things. There's also like just like little stuff that I feel like I've never seen in zombie movies before, where like they're running from and like the one guy is just like punching him in the face, which is like it's just so cool. And something like I never like, oh yeah, like you always see like people like shoot him or hit him with bats, like you want to keep a distance, but there's something about it that's so like cool and funny to me, just like punching a zombie.
The logic, I think, is that if you're putting your hand near their mouth, that's risky, but this guy's just like, no, I'm just going to punch them really quick in the face. Yeah. Oh, it's great. But Train to Busan is so good, and I enjoyed the sequel for what it was. Like, it's not a bad movie,
it's fun.
But it's not. Yeah, it's nothing compared to the original. Train to Busan's fantastic. All right, that was my 28, which takes us on to your 27. That's 27, Tim.
That would be The Mist.
Oh, I think that is a big fat hold.
All right.
Frankly, yeah. So, for the record, though, that's up for you. I think you had it at 40 last time.
Okay.
Very good. It makes sense. There's more ups and downs now that we're getting like near the top of the list. That just makes sense. So that was your 27. My 27 is down a little bit, but not by much. 19 it was last time. And that is the 2012 version of Maniac.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
May continue.
Yeah, so I like the original. I had the original earlier on. But I think
I was gonna say, is this one of the few examples of having the original and the remake on the list?
kinda, yeah. I mean, there's not a lot of examples of this. But I like the original a lot for its own reasons of being, the grimy late 70s, early 80s New York and stuff. The sequel ups the grime, even though it's set present day, by making the entire thing shot from the POV of the killer. Like, that's what this movie is.
Such a cool idea, yeah.
And I didn't know that going to see. I went to see this in the theater, not just thinking, oh, they made a remake of Maniac. That's a bit weird, but I've got time to kill. I'll go see it. And I remember just sitting there because the opening scene's in POV, and I'm like, oh, so they're doing like a Halloween thing where the opening scene's in the POV. What, that's cool. Yeah, that's nice. And then it just kept going, and I went, wait a minute. This whole movie's like this, isn't it? And it pretty much is. There's like one moment late on where it does like a little spin around and shows you him, but for the most part it's all entirely POV, which just makes you feel dirty and sleazy because you're inside the head of a killer who's brutally murdering people.
It's like forcing you to be in there, even if you don't want to.
Yeah. And I love that. I think it's great. I remember it just being such a unique horror movie time, and just a really different perspective on the kill scenes, and literally POV. So yeah, just really good. And Elijah Wood, who's the killer in this, like, let's be honest, like, I know people know him mainly for Frodo, but he's really good at playing creepy little weirdos.
That's what I think is really funny or interesting about it, is seeing kind of the difference between, all right, when you think of like what would be like a weird creepy guy in the 1970s, you have that like very kind of, I don't know, like he feels very like slimy and over the top and like kind of gross in the original Maniac. But then you think of, all right, like who would be kind of like who would be a creepy guy that would kind of put you on edge or whatever in the 2000s, and it's like oh no, it's like instead it's the maybe like quiet weirdo who maybe like looks at you a little too long, or like says like weird creepy stuff. Like it's interesting kind of see that change. But yeah, I mean, Elijah Wood just does a great job with it.
Yeah, and some people might just call it a gimmick, but honestly, like this perspective justifies the entire remake, because it's just a very, even though the plot roughly follows a lot of the same beats, it felt like such a fresh thing because it was doing it in this unique way. Yeah, I dig it. Dig it a lot. Cool. That's Maniac 2012. That was
I think. I was like, actually, I really like this movie a lot, and honestly, maybe the only thing that kind of prevented me from putting it on the list is just I haven't watched it in a while, so
sure,
not really fresh in my mind.
We haven't done either version on the show yet, so we're going to have to do them at some point.
That's I think I mentioned before with the first one. I don't even think I've seen the original, so
all the more reason.
Yeah, I'm down.
All the more reason. Next up then is your number 26.
All right. This might be a hold. Let's see. My number 26 is Nightmare on Elm Street 3: Dream Warriors.
Hold.
Okay.
That's down for you. You had. Oh no, sorry, it's up. You had that as 66 last time.
Oh my.
Yeah, so that's up quite a bit for you. So your 26 was Elm Street 3. My number 26, which is down just slightly from 22, and that is Eyes Without a Face.
Okay.
Yeah.
You may continue.
I figured. No taste, Tim. No taste. No, this is a movie from 1960, so it's around the same time as Psycho, but it's a French film, and it's like a mad scientist style movie where this guy's trying to like kidnap women and steal their faces to give his daughter, who's got a disfigured face, a new face. But this disfigured daughter is going around wearing this like plain white mask where you can just see her eyes, hence the title Eyes Without a Face. It's just really beautiful to look at. It's really gothic, and she's this kind of sympathetic, I don't even know if you can call her a villain, this, because she's not really the villain. It's the dad that's the villain. It's everyone around her who's trying to do this awful thing on her behalf. But it makes you this kind of, I guess it does make you think of Frankenstein a little bit, where you're kind of sympathizing with not the monster in this case, because she's not a monster. That'd be a horrible message to send to people. No, but you sympathize with the subject of the scientist's like tinkering, I guess, if to put it that way. It's just beautiful. It's haunting, and I just remember I tracked down the Criterion. This was before Blu-ray. This was the Criterion DVD back in the day. Although it does have a Blu-ray now and whatnot. But excellent stuff. I do hope we do this in the show at some point as well, because it's a really beautiful film.
Yeah, Honestly, I don't really remember much about it other than just the visual being very striking of that, that mask looking at you is very creepy.
Yeah. All right. What was your number 25?
So that would be another Argento flick, Phenomena. This is.
Well, I'll just tell you where you had this last time, Tim. You had this at number 8.
Nice.
So you've dropped this considerably.
I mean, I still gotta put it up there because I love this movie. I feel like there's a lot of a lot of people have like their personal favorite Argentos. Like I feel like there's the ones that maybe are like everyone knows like Suspiria and stuff, but then I feel like everyone always has their like, well, that's the big one, but then like my personal favorite is like this or that, and that's Phenomena for me. I think it's such a cool, interesting movie. I love the premise. You have this serial killer going around and this girl who can talk to insects who is using them to help track down the killer. And of course I love my apes and horror cinema, and this has just one of the all-time best horror movie apes ever. I think it's so cool. Again, there's a lot of weirdness to it, which is why I really love it. If you can tell, a lot of things I like that are just stuff that probably doesn't make sense or shouldn't make sense, but it's just so cool to watch, and that's this for me. I've
seen this movie. I don't remember a thing about it. I own it on iTunes though, so they will come when we can. I don't think we've done it on the show, so the day will come.
Surprising.
yeah, they will come. We'll get to it. So that was your 25. My number 25, which is up considerably from number 65 last time, is The Invitation.
So wait, was that an Unhold?
That's an Unhold. You had this already. Okay, yeah. I remember because I joked about it being the vampire movie from.
I had it at 48. Yeah. Oh yeah.
This is a really simple movie. Logan Marshall Green plays this character who's invited to a dinner by an ex with his current girlfriend, and it's just this really social awkward thing where you're sort of like picking up on these little signs and everyone's being nice, but he's uncomfortable the entire time, and the direction from Karen Kusama is like really good at letting you know how he feels, like constantly. It's constantly just making you feel his discomfort, and you don't want to spoil anything, so you don't want to say where it goes, but like it feels like they're trying to not let them leave at a certain point, and it goes from there. There's something cooking. There's a horror element cooking under the surface, and it feels weird to say anything else, to be honest.
No, I mean, this was another one that I feel like was kind of surprised. Like I feel like it kind of came out of nowhere, and
absolutely,
I feel like going into it because and two, it's from the director of like Jennifer's Body, which is a movie I think is kind of fun, but it's not. You wouldn't expect like these two movies to be from the same director. Like it's.
I think at the time as well, people like. I think now that movie's got a cult following, so I think a lot of people would actually sort of say, "Oh no, Jennifer's Body's great, so obviously her next movie's great." But at the time, I don't think people were remembering Jennifer's Body that. At least in my circles, I didn't remember anyone thinking of it fondly.
Yeah, it's had a little bit of a reappraisal, but at the time, I don't think people liked it. And I mean, even if you did like both movies, so I think they're so widely different tones.
Oh yeah.
Like, and but yeah, I mean, I think like you were saying with this, it's so much about the weird social awkwardness, and again, like I feel like there's a lot of movies on the list that kind of have this example of that, where there's this kind of tension, but it's not necessarily like from horror. Which then kind of is elevated by once the horror is introduced, and man, what's the name of the guy from Zodiac? Is it John Carroll Lynch? Or?
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. He's also in season 2 of Channel Zero and a few other things. Yeah.
I bet he's probably like one of those dudes that's just like the nicest, warmest guy in real life, but he does such a good job of like being such like an intimidating force,
like low key intimidating as well for a lot of it. Yeah. It's really well done, and it's only risen in my memory since we did it, and I've not even watched it since we did it, but it's left such an impression.
I think I recently bought it when it was on sale on like iTunes or Vudu or something, because I've been wanting to rewatch it. But yeah, I haven't seen it since then either. But it's such a good movie. It left such a good memory in my brain.
All right, what's your number 24?
That would be Army of Darkness.
Very good. Last time you had this at 14, so it's dropped quite a bit.
Ooh. Okay. I mean, I love my Bruce Campbell. I love the Evil Dead films. Obviously, this is veering more into, comedic territory, and it's starting to get into like that kind of jerky Bruce Campbell that, we all know and love. But I mean, there's so many great moments, so many memorable lines. It's so funny, lots of good, like practical effects, and it looks great. Yeah, I mean, it's such a fun blast. I can, this is a very easy movie to just put on if you just, need to kill a few, it's not very long, but yeah, if you just need kill a little over an hour, like in an afternoon or something, it's very watchable.
Yeah, I enjoy Army of Darkness. I think over time I've realized it's my least favorite of the Evil Dead movies because, I like the Evil Dead movies I've realized to be more towards the crazy horror that's more serious, I guess. But I enjoy the goofier elements. I think Bruce Campbell's immensely entertaining in this. So many of his sequences are very quotable, and yes, it's a bunch of fun. Didn't make my list, but it's a bunch of fun. Although I think it did last time, but not this time.
I mean, I think it's understandable because it is like veering away from the serious horror that was established in a lot of the other movies and stuff. So I totally get it, but yeah, I mean, it's still so much fun. I mean, it's another one of those movies too where I feel like I watched this so much in high school. Like it is such a fun movie with me and my friends that I have a lot of love for it.
All right, well, my number 24 is a new entry for me, and it is The Blob from 1988.
Was that an unhold? I think I had that.
Yeah, maybe
earlier.
an unhold. You tell me.
You may continue. I'll look it up.
You did. Yeah, you had it earlier. You had it at 71.
Okay.
So
yeah, there it is.
Yeah, I hadn't seen this the last time we did the list. I watched this for Ace because it's also sci-fi. I think it
was a relatively new watch for me over the last couple of years too.
And I was expecting to have fun, but I was kind of blown away by how much fun I had because it's got cheesy characters and it's got all the goofier elements, but I wasn't expecting it to be as legitimately funny as it was. There's laugh out loud lines of dialogue repeatedly throughout this movie. And the big winner, though, is the absurdly amazing practical effects, where it just does insane stuff with its its blobby goo and has people like disintegrating inside the blob, or it has like faces being ripped off, or it has people being pulled down like sink drains, and it's just crazy stuff like that. Where I enjoy the 50s Blob as a sort of B movie from the 50s, but the 80s one just takes everything and just makes it better, just makes it this crazy 80s over the top. I don't know who did the practical effects, but whoever it was just going as far as they could get away with, and it's so entertaining as a result.
No, I mean, it's so much fun, and I didn't really know what to expect because it's not one that I feel like people talk about all the time, but I think I might have just randomly picked it up when it came out on Blu-ray, or I might have had a friend be like, "Oh no, you should check it out." I think what kind of sold me is finding out that it was the same guys that did Dream Warriors. I believe it was Frank Darabont wrote it, and then was it Chuck Russell that directed it?
I don't think I realized that, but that explains a few things.
But I mean, you can if you look at both movies, they're both very funny, and has memorable characters and moments.
Tim, like one of the funniest things of any movies in this, it's there's a couple who go to the movies to watch a horror movie, and it's a knockoff of Friday the 13th, and there's a line of dialogue in this fake Friday the 13th that I'm almost getting the giggles thinking about it. I don't want to spoil it, but it's just it broke me. It broke me. Right? It's intentionally very funny.
Okay, I have to rewatch it because I've only seen this probably once or maybe twice, but so it's not like super fresh in my head. So it probably is due for a rewatch. But
yeah, I mean, I had this all the way up in my 20s, which just shows you how much of an impression it left. As a new watch for me. All right, what is your number 23?
That would be An American Werewolf in London.
Yeah, this is an unhold, so you can go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just phenomenal. I mean, you were saying, Ginger Snaps is your favorite werewolf movie. I mean, this is easily mine, which is probably not, a super hot take or whatever. It's probably a lot of people's, but I mean, I think it's just a movie that's firing on all cylinders. It has a very likable, cast, the main character, his love interest, work very well together. His, dead best friend who shows up as a ghost, which is like a little bit of lore that I love, that you don't really see in like other werewolf stuff. But I mean, similar to like you were just saying with The Blob, the big thing that people associate with this movie is the practical effects, especially the transformation sequence, which is just like top notch.
Yeah, it's some of the, like, there's I don't know what contenders are better as far as werewolf movies go, but this is one of the better looking werewolves, and
yeah,
certainly anything from this era for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I love it. It's great.
Yeah, no, it's a very good. I had it a bit lower down, obviously, but it is one of the best werewolf movies for sure. I think the likability of the main character, the sweetness that the romance actually has, him and Jenny Agutter actually have chemistry, and it kind of feels that they care about each other. So yeah, it does feel like a tragedy where, when it has to go down the path of being more of a werewolf movie. So
I'll give a compliment to the Happy Death Day sequel, because the sequel to this is probably the worst thing we've ever done. that is such garbage.
American Werewolf in Paris, like, I'm getting flashbacks right now of a bungee jump scene off of the Eiffel Tower.
Oh dear Lord.
I don't even remember the context or what happens because of the bungee jumping. I just remember there being bungee jumping that looked really bad.
I want to say we did it on Octoberthon maybe last year or the year before, so people can look that up if they haven't seen the review. That was a fun one. Just there was a lot to complain about in that movie.
There was discussions to be had. I think that's fair to say. So yeah, that was your number, what, 23? 23. My number 23, which is up from 42, although I suspect you're going to yell hold at me, is A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes, please hold.
Yes, I had a feeling you might want to hold that one. All right, well,
like a phone operator.
In that case, what's your number 22?
All right, get ready for this hot take.
Oh, God.
This is gonna be the quickest hold in history.
Oh no!
My number 22 is Halloween, 1978.
Hold. I thought you were going to say Leprechaun, Tim. I'm not going to lie.
The choice is not a hot take. Probably having it that low is probably a hot take. But come at me.
It is down. You had this at 13 last time, so your opinion has objectively got worse. That's just facts at this point. All right, so that was your 22. My number 22, down 2 spots from number 20, is The Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, hold.
All right. Okay, well, let's see. Okay, now we're speeding up a little bit. We got all these holds. Very good. All right. In that case, what was your number 21?
It Follows.
Oh! How dare you? I need to put this in. This is the problem when I need to hold you, is I still need to like find the seconds to put in your number. All right, 21 was that? 21?
21.
You had that at number 6 last time. That is...
The years have not been kind.
Shut up. And They Follows a thing, or it's going to be a thing now, next year.
Okay, so... Yeah, I mean, that could potentially be another runner in... I feel like this year was a little disappointing for horror, but I'm starting to get excited for next year.
Next year we've got Eggers Nosferatu and They Follow by the same like director-actor team. Like,
so things could be looking up.
Yeah. Maybe it won't be an easy fight for best horror next year now that I'm thinking about it. Do you know what? I actually think we did It Follows so early that I was thinking it's one that we have to redo, and that will be a great excuse to do it.
Oh, sure.
When the new one's coming out. Yeah, that's actually perfect. Yeah. Okay. Anywho, that was your 21. My number 21, which is down just slightly from 17, is Insidious.
Oh, okay. You may continue.
Oh, I may continue. Yeah, so I loved Insidious when I saw it. It was one of those pleasant surprises where I went to the theater. I wasn't expecting much because I knew it was the guy that made Saw, and I was like, it's probably not going to be very good. And I don't have a big tolerance for generic supernatural, as a ghost in the house or as a ghost possessing one of the kids kind of movies. But this movie, first of all, is this grab bag where there's actually multiple ghosts all trying to get to the kid. So a lot of the jump scares are all very different because it's all different types of ghosts and demon that are doing it. And then on top of that, the mythology that it kind of builds up to and starts to reveal is so much fun. It builds up this whole idea of the further backstory for the parent. You got Lynn Shays, the paranormal kind of expert, and I think the third act is so good at like taking all the pieces and building a really cool like new movie universe out of it, where I'm like, okay, that was really interesting. And then the ending I think is perfect, where it kind of like you realize what the purpose of the whole movie was. And I don't know, it left such a great impression on me where I'm like, you know what? That was so much fun. It felt like just creativity, just, coming out of a fountain and just, doing whatever they could to have more and more better scares and have it all feel coherent and fit together in a way that it made sense. I had a great time with Insidious.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. Again, it was interesting. Yeah, see them kind of building this world to the point where, the new movie just came out this year. If people want to check out our review of The Red Door.
Just a few weeks ago we did that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, a lot of fun though. I like this movie.
Yeah, there we go. I do like part 3, which you had, but I like the first one more. It's still
very fair.
Still the first one that holds up for me. I am interrupting this broadcast to unfortunately tell you this is the end of this episode. We recorded numbers 40 through number 1, and ultimately it was just too long. It was 3.5 hours or so in length, and it's actually too big for the audio feed to handle. The size limit would be completely obliterated. So what was once part 3 is now being split into part 3 and part 4. This is the end of part 3, and you can get the final 20 entries in the next episode. You're not going to have to wait too long though, because this was all scheduled out to be this week. You're going to get the second half this week as well, or the fourth quarter, I suppose, more precisely. You'll get that in 2 days. This is going out on Tuesday. You'll get the final part on Thursday. And funnily enough, Screams After Midnight going forward will probably be out on Thursdays when it's out. The public episodes about every 2 weeks will be on Thursdays, starting from part 4 of this. So consider this a transition week, if you will. But hopefully you enjoyed this part of the countdown. I'm just recording this little outro separately from everything else, because this decision had to be made after the fact. But let us know what you thought of our picks in the comments. Like, subscribe, support us on Patreon, all the usual thing. I won't waste your time. We'll see you for the final part in a couple days. Keep watching scary movies. Goodbye.